everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is, I'm so excited. For one, my great old friend Lindsey is here to talk to us about interoception, which is something I certainly need help with. But this looks like it's going to have record attendance. CASY is growing every day, literally every day. We have more and more people joining. To that end, we continue our quest to balance being able to listen to the speaker and get engaged. And it's always tricky because I know we're all just burning to say so many things. But I will ask that we wait until she's finished with her talk to ask questions. And if you could please raise your hand. We may have to just randomly pick people because there are so many. But that should make for a great discussion. As usual, keep it positive. Let's support each other. We want this to go well for everyone. And with that, I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Lindsey Biel.
Hi, everybody. I am an occupational therapist. I'm based in New York City, and I work with kids and teenagers and adults with sensory challenges, autistic people, and some people with physical disabilities. So a range of people, but my primary focus has been supporting autistic people. And this is one of the most powerful ways I know how to do that. It's been an honor to be involved with this program for quite some time now. And I've known Dawn for quite some time, and now Roger is an old friend. I'm very happy to meet all of you. My impulse is to always put autistic voices first, but because there are so many of you, I want to get you the information and then hand it over to you. So it's what I'm going to be doing. I'll have a couple of slides. I'll toggle back and forth. It's not going to be a slide presentation, don't worry. But a few things I thought would really help to have visuals on. So today's presentation is going to take a look at sensory systems and focus really on those internal senses that you may not even be aware of, that help you to have an embodied experience of your life. So many of us are up here and processing an awful lot, processing the sensory stuff, but also all the social and all of the, energy management and all of that information stuff. That we kind of lose our bodies sometimes and don't know what, we know our bodies feel these things, but we don't know what's going on with our bodies. So I'm going to give you some strategies and ideas for how to tune in, ways to help you move that are beneficial. And, I'm not going to ask you to go work out, to start like pumping iron. But movement that is really embodying and ways to strengthen yourself. The goal is to increase your sense of well-being and groundedness on planet Earth. So how to attain that, I know, is highly subjective and it's really personal. And the things that I mentioned today may not work for you. May work for some of you. You may have your own ideas. I'm sure you have your own ideas and things that you've come up with that work for you. And I hope that we get a chance for you to share that. But I do hope to give you some new strategies and tools that you can use. So we think of our senses as receiving sensory information from the outside world. And yeah, some of us are like super sensitive to certain types of input, like fluorescent light or artificial light or downcast overhead light or certain sounds. Certain touches, certain smells are difficult to tolerate. Obviously, some of us really seek out certain kinds of sensory input to feel good. But oftentimes it's like this overstimulated kind of experience that we have, and it gets tiring to process all of that. So, you may well, I can't speak for anybody in particular, but there's often a pattern of like sensory avoidance, except for in certain situations and under certain conditions. And maybe at other times sensory seeking, when you feel like you're in control and you're feeling safe and comfortable and you know what feels good for you. So that's all great. And this is how we think of sensory processing. So there's also, so I'm going to show you this slide. Let me jump right into it. Oh, these are my books, Raising a Sensory Smart Child and Sensory Processing Challenges. Okay, so there are 5 external senses that tell you about the world, right? So there's the touch sense. There's light touch. If you pull out your arm and you sort of tickle the surface, that's light touch. There's deep pressure that goes deeper into the skin, and that's typically more comfortable, more comforting, and more grounding than that tickly light touch. There's also vibration and temperature, so that's touch. There's also, obviously visual clarity, but that artificial lighting, really busy visual fields that you have to deal with, the contrast sensitivity, like looking at that black type on the white background. Another external sense is the auditory sense, where you pull in sound. And we know that autistic people can be really reactive to volume or certain frequencies, or more often than not, I mean, I know I have a problem with it, the conflicting sources of sound, where it's coming from all different directions. So you have to listen to like announcements in, let's say, the grocery store, and people talking, and the wheels on the grocery cart. These can be really, really difficult to manage all of that multi-auditory figure ground stuff. And then, of course, there's taste and smell, which impacts particularly our eating. So taste and smell are really important, but there's also texture and temperature and appearance that can make you perhaps a highly selective eater. I hate that term, picky eating. You're just selective. Maybe there's just a couple of things that you're comfortable eating. And smell, we know, can impact your physical comfort in a lot of different environments, at work, at school, at home. If you're parenting a child, your child may be super sensitive to certain smells. It's just a big area that we tend to not think about. So those are the external senses. And those are the ways to think, oh, there are 5 senses. I know what they are. So we all learned about those. But in fact, there are 3 more senses. I'm not going to do, ESP. We're going to skip that. But there are 3 really important internal senses, and that's what we're really going to focus on today. And this is what tells us about our lived internal sensory experience. There's the vestibular sense, which you may have heard of. It's our sense of movement and gravity. It's based on input within the inner ear. And that's where the vestibular receptors are. And that may underlie challenges with balance, or getting dizzy easily, or not at all. I've worked with people who, some people can't even move their head without getting really dizzy, and other people just spin and spin and spin and just want to be on, merry-go-rounds and roller coaster and spinning things. I feel sick just watching them sometimes. It's like, it's so intense. And I don't mean that as if it's just I have vestibular stuff. So when I see it, it's in someone else spinning, it triggers my own stuff a little bit. It may impact confidence while you're walking or running or learning a new gross motor activity like riding a bicycle or ice skating or rollerblading. So that's the vestibular sense. Then there's the proprioceptive sense, and that's where we start getting really like, I never heard of that. And that's our body awareness. It's our internal body awareness. It's derived from receptors in your joints, muscles, and connective tissues. It's what lets you join your fingers above your head without even looking. I'm not looking at my little camera thing. I know where it is because my body has that information hardwired into it. But for some people and a lot of autistic people, they may not know where their body parts are at all times, or where their body is relative to the environment. So you start to have some, I don't like the word, but clumsy. A child would be labeled clumsy because they're always banging into things or breaking things, bumping into people and objects. They may use too much force or too little force. You know, when I think of someone writing, and they're writing away and like sort of ripping the paper because they're pressing so hard. Or other people who are writing and you can hardly see it because it's so faint. That it's like we use proprioception to grade our muscle pressure. So the vestibular sense and the proprioceptive sense work together seamlessly like a GPS system. So you know where you are 24/7, right? Throughout the day, these systems are working together. Now, the sense that I really want to talk about today is the interoceptive sense. And this is something, it's been around, but it hasn't been at the forefront of sensory processing and our understanding of sensory challenges. And a lot of the difficulties that that kids and teens and adults are running into is poor or decreased interoceptive processing. Interoception is the sense of physiological condition of the body, right? You can tell what's the state of my body. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I need to poop? Do I need to pee? Am I okay? Am I safe? What is my heart rate? What is my breathing like? Right? And we don't even think about this stuff consciously. When everything's working well, you don't think consciously about any of this stuff, right? It's when there's a problem that your attention shifts towards your interoceptive sense. And basically when all is working well or easily, you have these are the key parts of key underpinnings for self-regulation. It's like, okay, I'm grooving, everything's good, my body feels okay, I'm safe, I'm okay. So sometimes it doesn't work that well. When we think about all these sensory systems, they are absolutely connected, completely and totally connected. So I've got a couple of notes here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. When there's a disconnect, we start to have some difficulties. I'm going to give you a couple of examples from autistic clients of mine where they've talked about some of the struggles that they're having. There's a lovely woman that I worked with who was going back to school to become an an art therapist. Very exciting for her to do that. She had to do a lot of work on herself to be able to tolerate all of the demands to go to graduate school, but she was ready. So she went to the art supply store and she bought canvases and paint and paintbrushes and all this cool stuff and put it in her backpack and put that on her back and put a bag, you know, 2 big tote bags, and started walking home. She's pretty strong. Started walking home with all of her art supplies. And she became enraged as time went on and she's walking. It's not that far a walk for her. She found herself becoming very, very upset, and really like furious, and, you know, just her breathing got very, you know, very short and shallow, and she could feel her heart rate going up. She's just completely melting down. And she finally got back to her apartment, had a complete and total on the floor meltdown. And she asked, she's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, why did that happen? And as we talked about it, we realized that this stuff was really heavy and her body hurt, that her muscles were just really giving out and she was in pain from like muscle cramps practically. So, but she didn't feel it. She felt it in her brain. She felt angry. She didn't feel tired. So that is I think, a perfect example of when interoception goes wrong, that where it really becomes problematic. And I'm going to bet that some of you, most of you, all of you have had experiences where you didn't read your body's signals as well as you would hope to. And that's very painful and upsetting. You know, together, this client and I worked up some solutions when she started to get angry. I mean, I think anytime anybody gets angry about anything, the first thing you need to do is take a break, is just stop. Powering through things, unless it's a matter of life and death, often are counterproductive, and you don't get what you need. It's like taking a break, stopping, and I'm going to talk about body scans soon, but finding out like what is emotion, what is physical, what is going on here. It is all connected, but really stopping and tuning into your body to find out what's going on, rather than she just kept going with the anger and just kept getting angrier and angrier. It's really hard. Once that starts to cascade, I understand that it's really, really hard. And I asked her if she could have taken a break, and she felt that she could have. She just didn't know it would be okay. So give yourself permission to take a break. We also problem solved other things she could have done, is perhaps next time she wants to take multiple trips to the store so she's not carrying so much. Maybe she should have called an Uber or taken the bus or the subway, this kind of thing, or maybe bringing a friend to carry things along, but coming up with some solutions so that when she has to carry something heavy, she's not in this horrible situation. Then there's another client, actually she's a friend, who went to the doctor because she was in severe pain, and the doctor asked her what's wrong, and all she could say is, I hurt. And the doctor would say, you know, what hurts? Where does it hurt? And she was like, I hurt. And he was like, where? Point to it. And she's like, you know, she pointed to like everything hurt. It became so diffuse and spread out all over her body. So it was very, very hard for her to pinpoint that in fact she hurt in her bladder area, down there. She was also embarrassed. There's some aspect of that too, but she really couldn't locate where. She pulled out her iPad, her mom was with her, and had her pull out her iPad, and the doctor pulled up a photo and had her point on the iPad to what hurt, and she was able to localize it to more of her trunk area. And anyway, they did all these tests, and it ended up that she had really bad bladder spasms, which apparently, like, some women with severe bladder spasms report that it's like giving birth. So these are really serious medical things. And this interoception, I'm using the word poor, I hate that word, but when interoception is not working well, it can be a real problem medically. So again, the mind and the body are so connected, and parsing that out is, I'm not going to be able to teach you how to do it exactly today, but I hope to give you some tools and this idea that the anger that you feel can be generated by bodily sensations. So one of the things you're going to want to do is a sensory body scan. And there are a lot of really cool worksheets and exercises that you can find if you go to your browser and search for that. There's all kinds of things that are up there, and you may want to work with someone who is good at working on interoceptive awareness. But basically, you want to start to tune into body parts and what different sensations really feel like. You're not going to be able to do that when you're upset or, you're not feeling well. It can't really, it has to be something when you're feeling calm and comfortable, and start to sense, like, what does it really feel like when I have a headache? Do I feel muscle tension? What do I feel? Do my ears get hot? Does my neck feel tight? Can I feel the headache back here? If some people with autism, as you know, have some difficulty with continence, getting to the toilet, and learning to understand what the pressure feeling is, so that you can become aware, like, oh, when I need to use the toilet, my tummy gets kind of tender and it feels like someone's pressing on it, especially lower down over the bladder area, and really start to go part by part of your body to tune into what those different feelings are all about. Stop and think, when you're at home, what is your breathing like when you're at home? Right now, hopefully you're relaxed. Try putting your hand on your chest right now, and one hand on your chest and your other hand on your belly, and just kind of breathe normally. Hopefully right now you're in a relaxed state, and really tune into what that feel. I'm talking, so I'm like, it's not that relaxed, but really tune into what that feels like, so that you have a baseline. And then when you're getting, in a situation where you're starting to get revved up, do that again. Try to remember to do that again and be like, oh, my breathing is getting really rapid. Oh, this is happening, that's happening. Or I don't feel like I'm breathing at all, because when we do get upset, we tend to breathe in a very shallow way, where we don't get the oxygen that we need to really feel great. Also do that with your muscles. How do your muscles feel when they're really relaxed and you're feeling good versus when you're getting worked up and feeling uncomfortable? Like, what does that feel like? Literally, what does it feel like? So you can begin to tune into the differences in your body. So the question becomes, what are you supposed, what else can you do? So, of course, you are going to start by taking a break when you're feeling uncomfortable and you're not getting clear interoceptive input. You're going to stop what you're doing if it is safe to do so, and really kind of tune in and feel what's going on. You're going to do a sensory scan of the environment. What is there that's going on that is really noxious for you? For a lot of people, it's the lighting. So there's a wonderful boy that I work with, and I go in, and he's got this great nanny. I love her, but she talks really fast. And when he's upset, she just gets more like, it's okay, calm down, I love you, let's play. And I walk in, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I've taught her to lower her voice and speak softly and quietly, which is difficult for her. Culturally, she's, it doesn't matter. She's Chinese, but I've already started it. She's Chinese, and it's her way. Her mom says it's sort of classic Chinese nanny. I don't know if that's true, but it's been a wonderful, we've developed a beautiful relationship of how to work with this child who is overstimulated when she gets like that. The first thing I've taught her to do is let's turn down those lights, because they're very bright lights in their apartment. Turn them down, turn them off. It shifts everything immediately. You may already know that. But again, when you're in that like caught phase where you're like in that fight or flight kind or freeze kind of experience where you forget that stuff. So take a break, do that sensory scan of the environment, change what you can. One of the things I love, I just have to say it, I love smart bulbs. I'm so into them. If you can change your lighting at home, get one of these $15 smart bulbs that you can control with your iPhone. It's kind of amazing. Or I think they're also for Android. It's really amazing. You can make the light so sensory friendly. It's very calming, just beautiful for your interoceptive system and your self-regulation. So, you can find an essential oil. We can't go into sensory strategies too much here because I want to get to the movement and to that body, that embodiment piece that we were talking about. But, look at all these sensory pieces, change what you can. And yeah, so I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can keep yourself grounded, because a lot of what happens when you're in like sensory overload is that you lose your grounding, right? You're in your head, you're like, your vagus nerve starts to kick in and you go into all of this sympathetic nervous system stuff. And it gets panicky, and it might trigger some old traumas that may have gone on. It's like, how do we sort of calm that stuff down? So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. As I mentioned before, when we're having a hard time, we stop breathing. And I alluded to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from the brain all the way down and through the heart and into the stomach. And when we've experienced prolonged trauma, when we are just feeling upset or out of sorts, the vagus nerve starts to clench up, and it really can be problematic. So what you want to do is you want to sort of lower we call the vagal tone. The most direct way to do that is through breathing. So there are a lot of different methods for breathing. There's yoga, there's yoga breathing, there's the nostril breathing. There's a lot of balloon breathing and box breathing. But I want to teach you my favorite, which is 5-finger breathing. And I love this one because it's very practical. You can do it anywhere. It's a portable kind of tool. It's easy to teach a younger person, and it's easy to remember because you always have your hand with you. So let's go ahead and do it together. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your finger and you're going to inhale as you go up, hold, and then exhale. All right, so let's do it together. I make a lot of noise, so it helps people to really know what I'm doing with my breath. So I hope that you'll try it with me. We'll go like this. And what that does, I'm sorry, it's also going to make me cough, is it just shifts things a little bit. It's a great, practical, concrete way to take a couple of seconds break. If you need to, you can do the other hand. And it's great because you can do it if you're somewhere where you're not comfortable sticking your hand out. You could certainly do it on your lap, couldn't you? Under a desk or on a desk, whatever. So that is one important tool. And okay, good, got everything. And then I want to teach you some other grounding tools that you might consider. We'll open it up to larger discussion about interoception and whatever else. Some other grounding tools that I think are very helpful are weighted blankets. And I do want to say with the weighted blankets that they really should be about 10% of your body weight plus an optional 1 or 2 pounds. It is subjective, however, so you may want an even heavier blanket. I found that weighted blankets were too heavy for me. Instead, I like to use towels. I like just a little bit of weight on me. Some people don't want the whole blanket because it gets too hot. So then sometimes just a lap pad, which maybe you can put over your chest and shoulders. And that there are weighted stuffed toys, there are weighted wearables. There's this hoodie from 𝘎𝘪𝘏 that I really like a lot. And these weighted materials really literally ground you onto planet Earth and help you to feel safe. And that's really what interoception is ultimately about. It's knowing the state of your body and using tools to help you reach homeostasis, right? So that you feel okay. Weight bearing, moving more into movement, like weight bearing through animal walks, right? Bear walking, penguin walks. I mean, I do a lot of these things with kids, but you know what? I really like it too. Doing all those animal walks. Body weight exercises like doing squats and planks. You can find out the proper form for this. I mean, ideally, you're going to work with someone, a trainer, to teach you how to do these things correctly and safely. But if you don't have access to that, take a look on the internet. All of this stuff is now available. and you can follow along. Lifting light weights, I'm not suggesting that you pump iron, but I'm telling you, just lifting the light weight, maybe lying on your back and pushing up 2 weights at a time. There's something incredibly settling about that because it gives a lot of proprioceptive input that is very regulating, and it tells you where your body is in space. Using gym equipment is great. Doing Pilates or even the martial arts are just so wonderful. What happens when we are feeling threatened or uncomfortable or anxious or overwhelmed, I think there's this tendency to just kind of go into self-protection and not move, which is fine. Protection and self-nurturing is super important, but we can't stay there, right? You want to move your body and be a part of planet Earth. So doing things, simple movements can really make a huge difference with getting your emotional and physical energy going. Using therapy, I happen to really like the soft red therapy, and just squeezing it. It's so great for your body and for your brain. It triggers this wonderful cascade of feel-good hormones anytime you move. So squeezing it, making what I call gumballs, right? Just making this little beautiful circle. I call it a gumball. And it's great for like fine motor. If you're struggling with fine motor skills, this is a really wonderful way to exercise those little muscles in your hand. Certainly using hand fidget tools, and I bet a lot of you have those. Especially squeeze balls, I love them. My little brain, very partial to squeezing my brain. You can consider apps like Headspace and Calm. A lot of people go to video games to self-regulate, which is great. It's definitely, it works for you. That's a wonderful self-regulating tool. But remember that it's not grounding and embodying. And you want to try to be in your body because we're on planet Earth. So there's a time to, everyone's different. I'm saying what you should and should not do, and forgive me for that. I want to walk that back. But what I have found is that many of the people that I know and that I work with ultimately feel better and become less dysregulated if they are moving, and if they're not just, going into the video game world, or that they're, after a little bit of time of taking a break, that they're actually out and moving their bodies can be really much more helpful in the longer term. So it's good to have those tools to go to be like, I'm done. I need to shut all of you, the entire world out and just do my thing. But then there's a time to be in your body. There's a place for both of those. Some quick shifts that work really well for a lot of people is music. Whatever music you're into, just, turn it on, dance, whatever, just listen. For me to self-regulate, I do really well with like Philip Glass or Brian Eno. But in a different mood, I'll need something like Nine Inch Nails. It depends on my mood, but find music that regulates you, that makes you feel, if I'm down, I need something to pull me up. If I'm like too hyped up, I need something to calm down. So find what works for you. There is also therapeutic listening music, which is something you would do with a therapist over headphones, that works on your auditory sensory processing, but just music. Let's keep it simple here for this purpose. Chewing gum, there are actually studies that show that chewing gum can decrease acute stress. So it's it gives that deep pressure into the jaws, which can be really calming. As can crunchy food, right? Chewing on a carrot stick can really help you ground yourself back into your body. Certainly getting up, going for a walk. There are tons of studies that are showing that just like walking is amazing for your entire being, for your mental health. Just walking, fantastic. Climbing stairs, jumping, bouncing on a big therapy ball. There are a couple of quick exercises I wanted to do with you, if you're willing to try them with me. And one is shoulder shrugs. You know what? I'm going to actually stop sharing for a moment so you can really see me. Okay. Are you seeing me fully? I don't know if it's changed. Well, anyway, there we go. I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Okay. So for the shoulder shrugs, you're going to lift up your shoulders and drop them. Lift up your shoulders and drop them. And one more time, lift up your shoulders, because this is how a lot of us are all the time, right? Drop them. Because we're all tense and we all have our stupid phones in our hands. So then you're going to go from that into shoulder circles. And for kids, I'm like, and you can do it too, because we're former kids. Dip your paintbrushes in some paint. I'm going to dip mine in purple paint. And I'm going to draw huge purple circles on my walls. I'm going to go 10 times. Right? And I've already lost count. Let's say there's 8, 9, 10. Change direction. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoa, that's a workout, right? It's a workout. Do you feel your body? You feel where your body is in a different way? And then we're going to do karate fingers. You're going to put your hands straight out, make a fist, and extend your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Flip your hands over. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This may be feeling like a workout, right? I'm going to share my slides again. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. Oh, let me get out of this. Stop share. Okay. Here's my favorite one. And I'm giving you these exercises as something you can do before you leave the house. Just like to ground yourself in your body. I want to teach you something called the cross crawl. It's from Brain Gym, a program called Brain Gym, and it's designed to get the 2 hemispheres of the brain talking to each other. So here's how it goes. I don't know how well you can see me. You're going to put, if you're willing to join me on this, you can do it seated, but it's better if you're standing. You're going to touch your right hand to your left knee and your left hand to your right knee. And you're going to keep switching. What you're doing is you're crossing the midline of your body. And then you can start to play around with it. If you can do your elbow to your knee. You can do your hands to your feet. The point is to cross the midline of your body. Okay, and again, the point of that is to get you grounded in your body and feeling safe in your body. right? And start to coordinate the sides of your body. Couple more things I want to talk about before I open it up to everybody. I want to talk about foot rolling. If you have a ball, if you have a lacrosse ball or any kind of hard ball, if you may well know to be working your hands, right? With hand fidgets feel really good and it can be really regulating. But what you may not know is how amazing it is to fidget with your feet. So you're probably not going to do this at work, but if you're at home, you're going to put your foot on this ball and roll it. I'm not going to manage to get my foot up in the air to show you, but that's your foot on your ball, right? Roll it, and then you can sort of drape your toes on it and pick up your toes. You can find different foot rolling exercises, again, on the. Finally, one more tool I want to talk about is vibration. For people who could benefit from a better interoceptive sense of their body, to really feel their body. Sometimes vibration is absolutely amazing. There are plates you can stand on that you can buy them on the internet, but you want to try them, right? You can stand on that just vibrate and you're standing on it, and it just gives your whole body all of this amazing input so that you can really feel it. And it also happens to strengthen bones if you have any osteoporosis kind of things. And I want to show you my a gift that my brother sent me, and I had no idea how much I was going to love it. I'm like, why did you send me this thing? He knew what he was doing. Can you see that? It vibrates, and you can use it on your feet, on your hands, on your arms. It feels amazing, and it is extremely regulating. Vibration, because it's so regular, and it's this great tactile input that goes deep into your body. You know, if you use those therapy brushes that you may have some experience with, they're good, but they're fairly superficial. Something like a TheraBody or a TheraGun, they're called, the larger ones, are really great for getting deep into your body. So I've just thrown a lot of stuff out at you, which is not ideal, but I'm hoping you got some new ideas and some new insights. And I'm so curious what you thought about the movements that we did together. They're fairly simple, how that felt, and perhaps more importantly, what your interoceptive experience has been, and just what your thoughts are.
Lindsay, let me jump in, please.
Okay.
This discussion on the screen is going to stop right now. This is an autism positive place. It's one of the few places that we can come as people who have, most of us have PTSD, and we don't want to see this. We will summarily remove you from the meeting. You're more than welcome to talk about your different experiences if they vary from what you're hearing, or if you don't like the cadence of someone's voice or whatever. But those are invitational things to do. We're going to discuss what works for you. We're going to help each other. I will not tolerate this. I will not tolerate this negativity. Roger, I'm going to ask you to get these people out before we continue the rest of the positive meeting. I'm sorry, but it's important that as CASY grows, that we know everyone's on the same page, that this is a positive place. Lindsey has helped untold numbers of people, including myself. She's kept me on this planet. So let's please respect our fellow members here, our speaker, and our goals in general. Thank you. Now, that being said, I don't know if there's two different icons maybe we could use so that non-autistic people could use one icon and autistic people can use another icon in place of holding up their hand, so that we come to the autistic people first. I would like that. Thank you. Roger, do you want to try to figure out how that works?
Yeah, I think maybe what we can do first, maybe we can take comments and questions from the autistic people, and then we'll do that for about 5 minutes or so, and then we can switch. Does that sound reasonable?
Great.
Awesome.
So, Dawn, are you who's sort of organizing the discussion?
I was going to let you, if you have the gallery view, I was going to let you choose.
Okay,
Someone
I
just had a
do.
question about whether or not it would be great to see an occupational therapist, and you know how I feel about that. So please carry on.
Okay, so I'm gonna look at the chat and answer questions. Do it like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you recommend working with an OT? Sure. OT can be really helpful. Everything I've learned most of what I've learned from my clients. What works, what doesn't work. And working with an OT, you know, we used to believe that people weren't capable of changing beyond, I don't know, age 5, age whatever. And as it ends up, you can, you know, the brain is capable of remodeling, they call it neuroplasticity, throughout the lifespan. So it is never too late to work on this stuff. My oldest client is the oldest one I've ever had is 64. So yeah, but I do want to say it needs to be someone who's trauma informed and, you know, who really is open to and aware of the challenges that you as an autistic person face, and will listen to you and will follow your lead and work with you. So who you work with is very important.
Wait, there is a hand up, Lindsay, from
Oh, I guess I don't know everybody. Okay. Hi.
Hi, I am late diagnosed autistic, going on elder woman. I am totally out of spoons right now, but I want to say that I so related to what you're teaching is amazing, and I especially found an eye-opening thing when you talked about the bladder spasms and the anger, you know, and the ability to take a break. It's, I mean, on one hand, to organize what you're teaching into a way that you can use it when you're in a meltdown is one thing, but that would be a goal that would work. I mean, and I do have some of these things. In fact, you reminded me I should go get my weighted blanket right now. I am really out of spoons. And I want to appreciate Dawn for shutting down this torrent, because it was so scary, and I want this to be a safe space, and it is a safe space. And also, Lindsay, I missed the first 5 minutes. I was on a work call, but are you also autistic?
I am not.
Okay, because you also were speaking of using some of the things, and I mean, everybody gets into trouble, but with us, what you're teaching is amazing. I am so thrilled. It is so helpful. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. not autistic. I do have sensory processing difficulties, but, and so there are a lot of people that have these sensory challenges, and but it looks like people who are autistic have it the hardest.
I have times where I cannot speak at all or move or am in so much pain or crying on the floor. Yeah, and it seems as though it's your fault, but since I've been self-diagnosed actually, and each of these programs is building on the next, and I just really heard when you said part of the anger may actually be physical pain that you're not connecting to due to autism, and that is huge. I've never heard that. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. Roger too.
Great, thank you. And I think you had a question.
Yeah.
You want to answer? Do you want to ask your question?
I think she wants to do it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let me see here.
I'm going to read it out loud. Okay. I have a comment question. I've heard this from OT therapists. If you feel upset or mad or angry, first, think through a list. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need the bathroom? Are you sleepy? Are you hungry? Does anything hurt? I have the list printed out and visual on the phone also to help check off list. Is that similar to your story about a client who was upset walking from the craft store? Maybe a list is helpful too. What do you think? Yeah, I think to have that external thing to run through when maybe you're not thinking sequentially, you don't, because you're upset, you don't have that distance to be like, okay, am I this, am I this, am I this? To have that visual might be, it's a really brilliant idea. Something to pull out, like, I'm getting upset, I'm going out my list, and I'm gonna look at all these things. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't eat today. When our blood sugar drops, it's really not great mentally for us. We laugh and say, oh, I'm hangry, but it's beyond that. Low blood sugar really puts us can really do like some serious mood disorder kind of things to us. So I think that's a really wonderful idea, and I thank you for that.
Roger, we had a transgender person asking a question. It looked like the chat came and went, and I really wanted to try to get to that. I didn't see.
Let me take a look here. Actually, give me a minute to find it. Maybe we can go.
Sure.
Who has her hand up?
Hi, I just wanted to thank you, of course, for this awesome presentation. And I also want to ask, as someone who's also late diagnosed in adulthood, with ADHD and autism, if there's any differences that you've first seen with folks who have both, and then if I also have a connective tissue disorder, I was wondering if that EDS connective tissue, if there's anything different or extra, I guess that would work for folks like that. I'm sure it's generally similar, but I was just curious.
So, I mean, in terms of the sensory challenges, you have a double whammy, surely, and a triple whammy, because you also have Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobile.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's a matter of degree and frequency. Congratulations on getting your diagnosis, number one, first and foremost, because my hope is that has been really eye-opening and life-changing for you.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, we see a lot of, with the ADHD, it's probably, the sensory seeking is that where that comes in. And one of the things that goes on, a lot of people, autistic and non-autistic, have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's coming out much more, how many people have it. And for those of you who don't know it, it's a connective tissue disorder where there's hypermobility of the joints and sometimes of the skin and sometimes of the organs. There's different levels of EDS. So when you're doing all that sensory seeking and like even those arm circles, like my guess is you were like doing like a way out kind of thing. So someone with hypermobility can go like this with my hand. Someone with hypermobility can bring their fingers like all the way down, like super. We used to call it double jointed. And it was like like, oh, it's cool. It's really interesting. And it is. But the problem is there's a lot of pain. There can be a lot of pain, especially as you get older, and dislocation of joints and all kinds of problems. So you do want to, very important, that you learn to move within a safe range of motion. That's super important. So like doing planks. I don't know if are you familiar with planks?
So you're,
For those of you who aren't, you're like on the floor with your hands and your feet, or sometimes on your forearms, and your back is like a plank. And it's this incredibly strengthening, full body strengthening exercise. If you're hypermobile, your shoulder may move alignment as your weight bearing. So you want to make sure that everything's within this safe range of motion, and the joints, you want to strengthen your joints to protect them, and not go out of range and hurt yourself. Or strengthening you can do around your joints, the better. So that's a lot to manage for sure. But I think you came to a great place, and I hope that you can work with someone to get a sensory movement program together for you. Like doing Pilates, doing martial arts, all that stuff is so great, but you got to be really careful you don't hurt yourself.
Thank you so much for answering that. I just wanted to bring, because I didn't know if maybe some other folks, right? It's common comorbidity, right? So I was just.
It is so common. I don't know if other people.
But
But thank you. I appreciate you answering that and taking the time with it.
Dogging, he's getting furious.
Great. So I did find that question. So I'll read it out loud here. I'm 57, autistic, transgender, pronouns he or they, physically disabled. I feel very disconnected from my body. Those exercises feel overwhelming right now. Any tips for finding someone who works with autistic adults? People I have worked with talk way too fast and I wind up getting injured or pass out because I forget to breathe. My neurologist was very dismissive when I told him and doesn't know where to turn. I don't know where to turn.
Wow. Yeah. I do get the feeling that you are not the only person out there that is experiencing that, and that's really a shame. I think a lot depends on what part of the country you're living in, or if you're where you're located. Let me put it that way. You may not be here in the US. It is really important that you work with someone who gets it and can help you work within your range of ability right now without exhausting you. I would suggest an out-of-the-box thinker, maybe an OT, maybe a physical therapist, or maybe I've often found over the years that yoga and Pilates instructors, if they are listening and not like sort of, you know, a lot of people have like this idea, like this is how I do things. This is my shtick, and this is how I work with people, and you need to push yourself. But a lot of the Pilates yoga people understand that maybe 15 minutes is going to be enough. Maybe modifications of things, simple things, that won't tax you so much, could work. It's hard to say because, you know, it's finding that special person who gets it. It's hard to say, except that I hear you, I get it.
I want to jump in really quick and say that's one of the reasons we're here, is for autistic people and our allies to network about these things, because, you know, I've seen a couple people that are great, and I've just sent massive numbers of people to them, and that continues to happen with our group, happily, and that will continue exponentially. So, you know, let's keep networking for that reason.
There are people who are asking about insurance coverage. There are, you know, it all depends on what your plan is. And there are some, I'm assuming you're asking about OT. There are some OTs that you have to ask your plan about what OTs work within your network, if you want to get coverage. Like in New York, there are several OTs that do Medicare, Medicaid. So that's great. Some that do accept insurance, but not that many, because these places pay so. It's shocking, but the bigger practices do cover, and your insurance company should be able to refer you to someone, and hopefully that someone is someone who gets it.
Great. There is one hand up from.
Hi. I also have both autism and ADHD, and my question is not specific to interoception. It's more along the lines of what you were just talking about, which is finding a therapist for support. And is there a resource somewhere that lists autism sensitive or autism familiar therapists across the country? I only found one so far, but she didn't take insurance at all. Please.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I just wanted to let you know that we have actually, in our membership, which is almost 1,000 now, several people have written to me to tell me that they have joined, and that they are autistic mental health providers. We sort of went global this spring, and it's been like being shot out of a cannon, frankly. But we're trying to, that's one of the things we're working on, is to list people on our website that can help or refer. So that's something that's going to be developing. We know that is a much needed resource for sure.
We have a couple of members who dropped a link in the chat for that, if you want to check that out.
Thank you.
There's also, I wonder about AANE, if that could be a good resource.
I mean, I love their program. I highly recommend people checking it out, because it is, you know, by and for largely autistic people, which we love. I'm not certain that they have that kind of networking, but check it out.
Oh, I just went to that link that, I don't know who posted it, Uh, that's a great link. That's amazing. There's also, I mean, and it might be more children. I'm finding so many OTs are working with kids and not working with adults. It really bugs me. But there's a group called the Star Institute, and they have a website. I'll put it in the chat. But it's sensoryhealth.org, and they do have a treatment directory, and you can tick off it, you know, if you're looking for an OT, a PT, a mental health provider. I can't guarantee that they work with adults, but they all have been trained in sensory integration. So that's something. So you can call and ask, you know, if that's what you're looking for.
Thank you.
That in here also.
Thank you. Has a question as well.
Yeah, mine's not directly related. I'm looking into going to grad school. I had already planned on going to grad school for trauma. But when I started taking psychology classes as an undergraduate, it's like my third degree. I realized they knew nothing about neurodivergent people, and I was absolutely shocked at like what I was hearing in class and just like the lack of information. I have been searching grad schools for neurodiversity affirming program, and all I can find is deficit models and ABA. And I'm not totally against ABA. I'm actually technically babysitting right now. The kid I'm with is an ABA. She loves it. Like, she's so excited. But it's obviously not relevant for me. Like, I graduated high school at 16. Like, ABA, you know what I mean? Like, I had behavior issues with people that were authoritarian. Other than that, you know what I mean? Like, so I cannot find a program anywhere in the US, I have found in Canada and the UK, that even addresses people like me. Like, that even kind of like acknowledges we exist. Do you have any suggestions on that?
Lindsay, can I field that?
Yes, you can.
Yes, so I don't know if this is your first session or if you are familiar with the group very much, but we have an enormous number of autistic academics in the group. I want to hasten to say that this is not an academic group. We want all kinds of people to come and enjoy this cultural center, essentially. But there's a lot of networking we can do between academics, absolutely. And we'll be working on a similar list to the mental health providers, academic mentors and programs and resources like that.
Yeah, I even joined APA and they were of no help. So I haven't gone to grad school at all. Like, I used to be a special ed teacher, but I quit because of nonsense.
You also had a question earlier about misattribution of arousal.
Oh yeah, I was just like she was talking about like you know like how like might feel anger or whatever. Is that like a misattribution of arousal thing, or is it different with autistic people?
I'm not sure I understand. I'm sorry.
I can't remember the example you gave, but it had to do with us getting angry when like we don't really know what we're angry about exactly.
I think it was the
Example of the girl carrying the art supplies, is that?
right.
Yeah, that was it. Like, is that like a misattribution of arousal thing? Like, I feel hot and stressed and like, so I become angry. Like,
Signs for her, I mean, it was like this kind of neurological thing going on with her. She had a lot of different things, like examples of like she just can't read her body signals. It's interesting. She's working on that quite a bit. I mean, for her, it was just like, I don't know what it is. She didn't know what her body was experiencing. She was so not grounded in her body that it just felt like anger for her. So it wasn't arousal so much as physical pain generating these signals that she was kind of interpreting as anger. And, you know, I think to some extent, like, it's human nature, like, we sometimes get angry and we have no idea why, right? So I don't know if it's an autistic thing or not. I mean, you know, the truth for one person with autism, you met one person with autism. I can't make a blanket statement that. Does
I
that,
remember when I was a kid, I was eating Cheerios before school, and just thinking about school, how traumatic it was. And I had one little piece of hair come down on my face, and that bowl of Cheerios went everywhere. I mean, they're probably still finding Cheerios behind appliances 50 years later or whatever. And of course, people thought, oh, you just have this weird anger issue. And of course, it wasn't that at all. I was just completely overwhelmed. So,
Don, I was thinking that maybe with a lot of people not knowing what their sensory preferences are, those folks may walk around, feeling maxed out like all the time, and just that one little thing is just it's too much,
yeah,
and I could totally see that happening.
yeah. It still happens to me, and I am, I'm autistic for a living, as I like to joke. And I still will have a very hard day and then realize there's been a mosquito in the house, or just something that just is, it's the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say. Yeah, it happens a lot to everyone I know.
yeah.
Hey, a question just came up for me. I'm a mental health provider and I do mostly autistic affirming work. And like, if you wanted to do a first step for people who thoroughly lost touch with their sensory preferences, their sensory sensitivities because of trauma, would you have a recommendation for like what would be the first step to try to like get back in touch with what are those things that elevate you? What are those things that soothe you? I have things I'm trying to do right now, but I sort of feel like I'm feeling around in the dark from an affirming perspective without a lot of guidance.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about the work of Stephen Porges, who's, are you familiar with him?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, so thinking about his work and how, the kind of freezing and the numbness that happens, the overreactivity and the numbness. He's got this something called the Safe and Sound Protocol. I don't know if you've come across that.
I have. I'm not familiar enough to use it, but I'd be happy to hear more about it again.
Yeah, I did one training on it, so I don't feel like amazingly great at it. With therapy listening, but I wanted to know what it is. And it's done with a therapist, and it uses sound and activity to kind of just retrain that arousal system. The vagus nerve that we were talking about that gets so what's the best word for it? I don't know,
I would say like hyperactivated or hypersensitive in terms of, yeah.
And it's like this stress limp response. I have something on my website that might be on one of my websites that might be helpful. I'm going to post it on the chat for my second book, and it's a self-questionnaire that kind of takes you into each get that in there, into each sensory system, and just kind of asks you, guides you in talking about things that really distress you, or things that you think you might enjoy doing. And then maybe you can work with someone to get more of that, to try more things that are in the things that you might be open to. And that might help to open up your sensory world a little bit more.
Thank you. That sounds helpful.
are we doing on time? Are there any allies out there that have additional questions?
That is so good.
Great comments in the chats too. I really appreciate that.
Amazing. So much information. You know, when we all get together like this, the amount of information and knowledge is just mind-bending to me.
It really is. We've been referring to it as neuroholographic, which means we all become a greater mind more than the sum of the parts. And that has been magical for all of you who have been to these sessions, longtime members. You know that this is a community of people who truly care for each other. And as the name says, we have a culture. Autism is a way of being. And when we run into problems, it's usually a cultural conflict between us and neuronormative expectations. And making our way forward together is going to make the world a better place for everyone. And that's our hope. And I'll also mention here at the end of our time, Roger and I are committed to keeping you safe. I respect that he often looks to me to sort of find the balance because he is non-autistic. He has great respect for our process. But he and I will both keep everyone safe, and that is a promise to everyone that comes. And again, Lindsey, my dear friend, I just can't express. You always teach me something new, and I've known you, like 20 years, and every single time you have amazing information, and you'll just have to keep coming back, so.
Okay, I'd love to, and thank you. I'm honored to have been invited to join you all today. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I should also add, so I
Yeah,
just
go
want to
ahead.
add for the folks who are asking about Lindsay's video today, it will be available. We have to go through a process where we de-identify for privacy reasons, but she actually has 2 videos already on our channel, so we can share those links for those of you who are interested in seeing those.
Yes, absolutely. And please do try to join our Facebook pages, Social Connectivity for Autism, and then Cultural Autism Studies at Yale page. We have just a couple questions, and it's to keep everyone safe and keep everyone on the same page. And we have our website as well. Lots of great information out there. So reach out so we can all stay connected. Yes.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
We have, if you're not a member of the Facebook group or the meetup, we have a pretty extensive list of talks coming up. So would encourage you to check those out and see if any of those interest you. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.